you noticed this whole year, they've been really amping up the deceptions with the hoaxes. Remember the hoax shootings all at once in like 2 weeks? There was like 5 different shootings, and they were all like proven to be a hoax. Like, what are these people up to? And then we got MH17 disappearing, and then suddenly, I gotta say, man, I haven't come across any definitive proof that MH17 is 370, but man, my gut tells me that they're connected. They have to. They have
what
to.
are the chances? From what I was reading, the 777 has had a spotless record for 18 years until the past 1 year, where it's crashed 3 times, or reportedly crashed 3 times. And I don't think I don't get me wrong, I know it's a huge company or whatnot, but Malaysian Airlines, I don't think I've actually ever heard of that company, outside, just if you were in the region you would hear of it, or like, around that region, I haven't really heard of it. I'm not saying, but like, what are the chances that twice in the matter of what, 4 or 5 months or something, that they go missing first, and then they say that it crashed.
Right. It goes missing. 4 months later, there's a proven false flag with the same exact model, same exact airlines, and then, there's a lot of evidence that would suggest that it looks like a plane was shot down, but the bodies don't add up. We got these bodies already decomposing. It looks like that was staged, at least somewhat, and then we have these passports that look staged. I mean, come on, putting 2 and 2 together, I gotta say, it sort of looks like MH370 that got. I mean, just using your intuition, common sense,
But at the same time, there could be a layer behind this. That's what they could be wanting us to kind of unite behind. You know what I mean? Like, these could be 2 different planes. But it could be from the same maker. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like so much. Wow, it's just, whatever it is, it smells rotten. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't think anybody's buying it. I don't think anybody bought it at 370.
Right.
At all.
And also, it's very interesting because right after these false flags got exposed, we got the Ukrainian Prime Minister resigning immediately after. Did you hear about that?
I have not.
Yeah, he resigned like 2 days ago.
Get out of here.
They were very hush-hush about it. Yeah.
Man, I might have heard like an article on it, but I was like, I didn't even...
He resigned. Right after this stuff happened, a week later, it gets exposed to the fullest. People are not buying it. They were obviously going to try to blame Russia, maybe start World War III or something like that. It didn't even come close because it was just so fully exposed. I mean, we had whistleblowers, as I mentioned in our Google chat, like this ex-AP reporter coming out and saying that these Ukrainian fighter jets were escorting MH17, and then I put all the other evidence on top of that in my video that I made. So you got that, and then this guy resigns. He must have been under some pressure, and there weren't really any other factors. I mean, we've had this Ukraine situation going on for a while, and he resigns now. So it's like, okay, so this false flag happens. It obviously doesn't go their way because you didn't really see much of a manifestation out of it that would benefit the New World Order. So you got to think it failed. It must have failed, right? It was exposed, all this. This guy resigns, and then you have these white flags being raised on the Brooklyn Bridge, almost like saying, we surrender. It didn't work. We give up. Maybe.
Yeah. I saw an article on the Toronto Star that said this was. Now this is just what was on the news. But they were saying it was for bikers. Bicycles weren't allowed on the Brooklyn Bridge anymore.
Yeah, but how do they get back? How do they get past all the security? And I mean, come on, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, and it'd be one thing if it was just a white flag without the if it wasn't the American flag, but no, it was a bleached white American flag. So it's almost sending a message like surrender of America, or America surrendering, or we call uncle, or something like that. That's just what my gut tells me. It is speculation, of course, but you got to think. So whoever put those flags up had to have had some sort of help from the authorities. It's impossible. I mean, come on. It's just impossible. They have all these cameras. They have 24-hour watch on the Brooklyn Bridge. It's a major terrorist threat target, and even the brainwashed cops are going to, especially the brainwashed cops, are going to be up all night, eyes wide, so to speak. Tabu 7 quote right there. Eyes wide on the Brooklyn Bridge. And they got all the cameras. They're saying they don't know who did it. I mean, come on. It had to have been some sort of message. Now you got to think of it this way too. We had the speech from Christine Lagarde, in which she referenced the number 7 and all this stuff, and it seemed like some sort of message, right? It's important to comprehend the fact that these elites communicate to each other that way, because it's such a complex system with so many people involved, that they many times, in many instances, they can't just give orders down the ladder. It has to actually be masked in the public eye, because it's just too the New World Order, the elites, it's too complex. There's too many of them. We got to think, there's like probably 10,000 people that are in the know running the system, and that's actually a very, very small amount. I mean, obviously, but at the same time, it's pretty big in terms of actually administrating orders. So these people, I believe, they communicate like this, with occult undertones and stuff like that. And we had the Christine Lagarde thing with saying the number 7 and alluding to all this stuff, and I go over that in my video where it just matches up perfectly with a lot of the numerology in that situation, the MH17 whole situation. And also the IMF, the BRICS nations were created the day before to oppose the IMF. So they were created the day before MH17 was shot down, or the week before or something. And who's out on the stage just a few months before that, giving these occult messages? The head of the IMF. Yeah. So it all fits. And then you have these flags that rose right after this false flag was exposed, and they're white flags. And if there were just white flags, it would be kind of vague. But no, they're American white flags, bleached, and it seems like they're calling uncle. It seems like they're and then the Ukraine prime minister, like I said, resigned as well. I don't know, man. It just, that's what my gut's telling me right now.
That's crazy.
Yeah. No, when I saw he resigned, I was like, are you kidding me? And this guy's obviously a Western puppet, admitted Western puppet. And it's just, he comes out.
Go for him. Like there's a neo-Nazi party in that the regime, or whatever you call it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they had people like John McCain coming out on the streets of Ukraine during that revolution, supporting these neo-Nazi guys that were opposing the Russian separatists. And I mean, these guys are supporting neo-Nazis, man. And they get away with it because they're the West. They're out for the good of people. Democracy. Well,
Yeah. And they've admitted that they were neo-Nazis before they started, because they're saying that, like, they're the better of two evils.
Right.
Like, they're choosing Nazis over pro-Russian separatists, or it's not even necessarily pro-Russian. It's just, okay, we're getting out of Ukraine. I mean, like, what was one of the first things that they did when they took over Parliament there was remove Russian from the official languages used in Parliament.
Yeah.
So now, I mean, most people speak both languages, the Ukrainian and Russian, but I mean, over in eastern Ukraine, I mean, that's not so much the case. Like, it still is pretty much, but not everywhere. I mean, that's like an official language, man. Like,
Right.
If we did that here with French,
Yeah.
like, I'm telling you, man, like Quebec.
Like, imagine there was
New
some sort of
Brunswick.
revolution in Canada, like all like these French separatists or these pro-French guys coming and just taking over your government and saying no more English. We're all speaking French now. We're gonna put in a French-run central bank. We're gonna, I mean, come on.
Yeah, and you know what? That's another way to look at it too. Like, because I'm just thinking the uprising that it would be with the minority. But if, like, say, Quebec came over here, or not necessarily Quebec, but like French Canada came and stormed English, I mean, it would just be crazy. Or just passed a law that we can't speak French in the Canadian Parliament, or we can't speak English. Like, that would be just, people would freak out. And then, like, it's no big deal here. It's like, well, they're Russian, pro-Russian, so obviously they're not on our side, so obviously we're going to go for our side. And
Yeah, and you got to think too.
that's okay.
What if these? Well, I mean, this is a little bit more dramatic, but what if these illegals, hypothetically, in America came and just took over the government and said Spanish is the new official language and this, that, and the other? I mean, Americans would be taking up arms, like to the fullest, man. People would be rip shit, and it's just that's what's going to happen when you come and topple a regime, it might be it might be not be fair to compare that to what went on in Ukraine, but at the same time, it's that sort of aura, that sort of attitude. A lot of people are very pro-Russian there, and it's like, and they all speak Russian. A lot of them speak Russian, so it's like, you're coming in and just trying to run everything with your foreign, bullshit, your Western bullshit, and there's a whole lot of Western bullshit. So
Look at the IMF money and saying if you don't quell this Eastern uprising, then you're not getting this money, and it's like,
right.
It's ridiculous. It's absolute. It's almost like a country on ransom here.
Right, and I think there is an East versus West thing going on here. Basically these two factions are battling over who's going to control the New World Order, so to speak. They each want their own New World Order. We got the Western people that want their own New World Order, Canada, the U.S., Britain. We all know the main players.
Yep.
Then you got the Eastern BRICS nations, Russia, Brazil, China, South Africa, and basically they just want to start their own New World Order, and because they know if the West actually clamps down and implements their global tyranny, that they will be placed behind the countries that are running the New World Order. So they'll basically have to be adherent to the U.S., to the British, Canadian elites. They want it the other way around. So a lot of these, especially I've noticed in the quote-unquote New Age movement, are saying Russia is there to free the people. China's going to free everybody. Everybody's going to get $100,000 wired into their bank accounts, and they're freeing humanity. Benjamin Fulford, this, that, and the other. And it's like, man, you don't see through this stuff. You don't see that this is a battle over power, because that's all it is. Now, there's also one other factor you might have to consider, though. Now, a lot of people are waking up to the fact that the West is corrupt and that they print all this fake money and give it to whoever they want and put developing countries in debt and this, that, and the other, and just to, enslave them. Now you got the East coming out with the BRICS agreements and stuff. If they were smart, if they were innovative and smart, and they really wanted people to, buy into their bullshit, so to speak, they would make their bullshit smell a little nicer than the West bullshit. So, in other words, they would put out a more of a fair currency so that the masses would flock to them, and they would control the the more popular, more innovative currency, the less quote-unquote corrupt currency, even though it might not even end up being less corrupt, but they would make it seem like it is. So we gotta expect, at least I expect, them to possibly put out more attractive types of initiatives than institutions like the IMF, etc. You know, the Western-based institutions, simply because they want to attract people to their line of bullshit. They want it to smell better, and you know, if they were smart, that's what they do. And I think that's what the plan might be. Now, you ain't gonna find me trusting that. You ain't gonna find me, buying into that. But it is important to understand that this is a very good possibility as to what may be going on and what the intentions are behind all this.
Isn't it almost just, if you kind of stand back and take the reality away for a second, it's almost kind of laughable. Like, this is what they're pitching now as a competitive model. It's like, our debt is better than your debt. You know what I mean? Like, that's basically what this is. Like, it was like in Canada. Here's an example of like how this is. I see it's kind of applicable. Like in Canada, it's not a large market compared to the U.S., but it is pretty big, especially for things like telecoms. Like we're one of the largest telecom usage ratio in the world, along with U.S. and and other ones. And basically, but because we're not a huge market, there's only like 3 big companies, and there was only 2 at one point. And then the third one got introduced in like the early 2000s was when it really started taking off. It's called TELUS. And it started off with, like rockin' prices. Looks like it was starting to like kind of change the market or whatnot. Everybody was flocking to them. And then as soon as they got a real good foothold, they became just like the other 2. Like it became the big 3. They started jacking up their prices. Now you're paying like $80 for a cell phone bill regardless of who you pay.
Yes, dude, you are on point. That's a perfect analogy. That is what I believe you will end up seeing with this BRICS thing. They will entice people into buying into their stuff, their whatever, their loans, their currency, all their horse shit. And then they're going to turn the tables.